Located off of the east coast of Queensland, Australia, the Great Barrier Reef supports the life of many organisms. Beyond the sheer biological diversity of the area, the Great Barrier Reef hosts a series of ecotourism attractions and economic services, making it an interesting site to examine the interaction between economic, social, and environmental spheres. The natural construction of the coral reefs has been severely impacted due to their vulnerability to climate change. The exposure of climate change factors such as rising sea levels, rising sea surface temperatures, increase in tropical cyclone activity, and ocean acidification has affected the physiology, ecology, and stability of the Great Barrier Reef ecosystem. The Great Barrier Reef has gone through 4 mass bleaching events due to above-average sea temperatures. 91% of the coral reefs has been bleached at least once, which has affected their growth and reproduction, making them more vulnerable to diseases and resulting in the reef structure to collapse. Increase in extreme weathering events such as tropical cyclones and rises in sea level have led to an upsurge in sediment and nutrient runoff. This has reduced the clarity and light available for photosynthesis, affecting the structure and function of the coral reef ecosystem, altering both the physical and biological processes.
We have 3 options to discuss in regards to sustainable restoration of the Great Barrier Reef. The first is status quo, not in the sense of where the reef was, but status quo in the sense of how it is in context of human behaviour at the moment. Do nothing. It will cost the earth a great deal, but it will be the easiest for us. The middle way is our second option, which is one where humans and the environment rally quite equally. Coastal developments will be limited. Boat routes will be limited. A lot of restrictions and rulings, but still time for leisure and freedom and space. Option 3 is where it becomes a bit more intense and the party is cancelled. All human activity is suspended and essentially the reef is left to its own devices with a small amount of help from humans in the beginning. This is probably the best outcome for the reef and for humanity as a whole, in our opinion. Option 3 will have drawbacks. Obviously, there is a lot that people will feel like they're being cut off from, so we're suggesting a new tourism industry, one that keeps all of the current areas relying on this income alive, but in a kind of fresh and exciting way, which is really quite cool and exciting.
This slide depicts a chart that summarizes a critical analysis of the 3 possible options we've come up with. The sections are divided into 4 parts: costs, both financial and non-monetary, practicality of implementation, possible successes, public opinion on the issue, and the role the government will need to play throughout each option. The first option of status quo involves leaving things as is, meaning the booming tourism industry generating upwards of $3 billion annually, which is greatly attributed to the Great Barrier Reef remain. Current restoration efforts involve coral grafting, which are seeing progress, but are no match to the damage of the current tourism boom. Public opinion is great as restoration and recreation coexist. Limited human activity is the second selected option, resulting in a minor economic impact and minor resistance from the public. It would be most practical of all the options and involve a large role of government implementing policies for visitors and businesses to adhere to. Businesses altering their platform to support education rather than recreation could ease the economic blow. Option 3 is most extreme, canceling all human activity surrounding the reef and prohibiting all coastal development. It would be extremely hard to implement, and major resistance from both the public and the government is expected due to the major economic impact it will initially incur. Extensive public education on the issue is necessary for implementation, as convincing governments to produce policies in favor of this will be difficult.
The indicators used for this project will include benthic, fish, microbial, and water nutrient levels, coral condition, and anthropogenic impacts. The resilience assessment created by Grimstitch and Abira seen in this chart can be utilized as a guide. This restoration plan will introduce a similar monitoring system which can be applied to reefs going further than standard monitoring. This table contains the type of practical observations that could be recorded by divers with the correct gear and training in order to track and categorize the coral condition before the project begins and after it's completed. The practicality of chart-based data collection means that with prior knowledge and context, that logging the findings of the biodiversity levels and coral conditions are simple. In this project, the government manages health indicator research based on a specific zoning plan and regulations. These regulations dictate the types of activity that can take place during extractive and non-extractive limited impact research. This dictates things like equipment use and timing of sample collection. Based off of the regulations dictated by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority, carefully selected equipment and methods will be used, focusing on ecological resistance, cameras to measure coral size, growth, class, and condition, which can then be recorded based off of the previous charts. The goal is to see the capacity of recovery and the growth of coral. The payment of divers, equipment, and scientists to check the resilience of the reef will also be an expense within the project. In order to monitor anthropogenic impacts like pollution, monitors and their systems will need to take place consistently on land near the source and close to the site. The cost associated with this practice would be any equipment rental or personnel needed to complete the task and analysis.
When analyzing all three options, the recommended approach to ensure the future health of the reef is to remove any human interaction. Though this is the most dramatic approach to fixing the problem, it is guaranteed to ensure the reef can be replenished to almost the state before any human contact. The implementations of laws reducing the amount of boat action within the area can also be directed to the reduction of fishing boats. This will directly reduce the amount of overfishing, which is a great problem in the reef, because the reef is not an independent structure. It relies on the aquatic species that inhabit it. This option can largely affect the economy negatively. However, this will happen in an even worse manner if action is not taken and the Great Barrier Reef is destroyed and all aquatic species die. Therefore, the strategic planning of this option will allow tourism to continue in Australia while saving the reef.